And don't worry, we will be talking about Ahoy Senor in a minute as well. But first of all, the Newbury Circus. Jonathan Harding, what's that?
Yes, so Newbury has announced a Winter Wonderland, if you're familiar, style carnival in the middle of its track for its big fixtures heading into Christmas and slightly beyond. It has, after the opening meeting, led to a little bit of consternation by some who have suggested that their view of the back straight was perhaps slightly impeded by this structure. There also wasn't a big screen at that meeting for other reasons. That was sort of due to waterlogging and ground, so we'll give the benefit of the doubt there. Newbury, it's important to state, are looking into this, of course, and getting more screens and everything else, but it's a broader question, I think, about racecourses, and we've all sort of kept tabs on the attendances this year. They have been very worrying. There's a cost of living crisis going on, despite the big figures at the sales, which we'll get onto. And racecourses will have felt the pinch, and this is an attempt to diversify their revenue stream. Whether it's the right one is, of course, very much open to debate.
Consumer needs to come first, though, Lucinda, right? You know, if you go racing, you need to have a clear view of the races.
Yes, you do, but then you also have to encourage people to go racing per se, and you know, the racecourses have to make their money. It's important, but I think, and we'll get on to it in a minute, but there are other things that are important about racecourses. Such as? Ground conditions, but we'll get on to that in a minute.
Okay, we'll get on to that in a minute. Let's move on and talk about ground conditions then. You now are experiencing, or all trainers are experiencing, and all of us are experiencing extraordinary climate conditions, whereby 1 minute we've got Sandown abandoning because they're waterlogged, and yesterday at Cheltenham they're wondering how much water to put on. Very challenging indeed.
It is challenging, but I think we're lucky. I spent last night with Anthea Lee, who's in charge of York, and she'd just been down at the RCA Awards, and it was great, and Cartmel won the overall ground conditions. It's not just now about putting on a little bit of water here and there. The racecourses know the filtration rates, they know everything about their ground, the agronomists have been in there, and I think that's the most important thing. You know, but I talk about, in my world, the most important thing is the horse, and they have to stay safe, they have to go on the right ground, and there's no excuse now not to get the ground right.
Because there's so much more information available to clerks of the course.
Absolutely. It's, as I say, it's a bit like how training's developed, that there's so much more technology that we can use, so much more information, people understand about the different ground types, and I think that they should be investing more and more money in that.
So the question is, what is the right ground? So, say Cheltenham yesterday, for example, horses coming out from top trainers, Alan King today with Edward Stone, Nicky Henderson yesterday with a couple of important runners. What's the right ground to have there?
Good ground's fine, but it has to be good all the way through, and I think what we've seen from the climate change is that the underneath it, the ground's quite quick. Underneath it, the soil structure is firm, and so you know, you risk the fact that a horse will let itself down because it thinks that it's softer ground, but underneath there's still concussion in it. So really important for these racetracks to sort that out.
And when you walk the tracks, can you determine that or not?
We do it two ways. So Ski will walk it, put his heel into the ground in a very old-fashioned way, and you get a feeling when you walk on it. But the most important thing is once the horses have been around it, we spend a lot of time saying to Derek, tell us after you've ridden in the first. Yeah,
so you can't really determine.
That's right, we can't.
Okay. Let's talk about the Trainers' Championship. We talked to Charlie Appleby about the Flat Trainers' Championship. Jonathan, the Jumps Trainers' Championship. Paul Nicholls, has he got it wrapped up already?
No, I wouldn't say he's got it wrapped up already, because there's a lot of big races to come, and Nicky Henderson hasn't sort of sent out too many of his big ones because of the ground, and I think sort of trainers are perhaps a little bit behind schedule because of the ground, so it's almost a sort of carryover from that. But he's certainly made a statement, hasn't he? I mean, Fergal O'Brien did fantastically and was really prolific at the beginning of the season, but Nicholls has just hit a completely different level.
I mean, this is more a point about Nicholls than it is about, you know, people say, oh God, it's November, stop talking about the Trainers' Championship, it's so boring. But it's more it's more a point about Nicholls and the way that he's come out of the traps this year.
Yeah, he has. He's got some fantastic horses that have been winning good prize money, and his team is right back up to the quality again.
And his own... We've talked a lot about determination and ambition and intent. There is nobody like him, really, in that regard.
Yeah, you know, we bumped into him yesterday and we were talking about Hoyson Europe, and he said, oh, so you'll be going to Aintree and then the Cotswold Chase and then the Gold Cup. So he knows the way to.
He's planning your campaign
he's planning
as
my
well
campaign, but that's because he's had the horses at that level and he knows it. It's easy to train when you know the path to take with the horses. He's phenomenal at it.
What do you think makes him good?
The standard of horse that he gets in his yard. That's what makes any trainer good.
But in order to get that, you need to have a certain. It's easy to say anyone could be given a load of nice horses to train theoretically, but it's acquiring them and acquiring the owners.
Oh yeah, I mean again, he's a genius at training them. He knows how to produce them in the right condition on the right day, and that's how you end up winning the big races.
I think as well the way he campaigns horses is to be commended, because he's not afraid of running good horses in handicaps, as you've seen with Frodon and Grenadine. And I think as well with Nichol's success, a lot's been made of his strike rate and everything else, but I think Harry Cobden as well has been riding out of his skin so far this season. He's been exceptional.
Yeah, about a 50% strike rate the last couple of weeks. Nichols has got spending power, but I don't even think he could persuade an owner to part with $4.6 million for 2.5% of a horse, which is what happened with Flightline last week. Although we don't actually know who's bought the 2.5% share. Crazy money or about right?
I mean, it's so difficult, isn't it? Because value is determined by what somebody is willing to pay for it. And Flightline was clearly incredibly impressive, albeit in 6 starts. We saw him in the Breeders' Cup Classic sort of win as he wanted to. You're basically paying for the novelty of being able to buy into a horse of that quality, really. I mean, it's only because 2.5% has come up that people are willing to spend over the... Because the horse isn't worth north of $180 million.
Well, is he not, though, you see, because they've now set the stud fee at $200,000.
Yeah.
Which, if he takes 200 mares, you get that back in 4.5 years.
Well, this is it. I mean, I was sort of trying to crunch the numbers before we knew the stud fee and got rather lost in various calculations. But I think if he was to cover 200 mares, it would be 150 to 250 mares, which would be right up the top end, would justify, would be looking at $30 to $50 million.
He's a better horse than Justify.
Yeah, I believe so. But it's the Triple Crown factor as well, whether that slightly hinders his appeal. I would suggest not, given the nature of he won that race. I'd have loved to have seen him stay in training, because we didn't see as much of him as we'd have liked, but that's slightly... It doesn't make sense financially.
A lot of jumps trainers will not watch that much flat racing. A lot of flat trainers won't watch that much jumps racing. Do you take an interest in all racing, all horses, all times?
Yes, I mean, I think the big race, I thought you did a very good job of presenting the Breeders' Cup, and I think it's exciting as long as there's a narrative towards it and a story about it. And I got pulled into the Flightline story as well. I thought it was a tremendous performance, and it's a big gamble. Whoever's buying 2.5% at that thing, it's a good gamble, and maybe it'll come off.
And a horse to be able to run that fast for that long, you just don't see it that often. Let's talk about stud fees in general. I've never known anything like it, Jonathan. The sort of flurry this week, whether it was Flightline prompted or not, I don't know. But we had Franklin at 275 this week, Dubawi at 350, See the Stars up to 180, Baid at 80, which I thought was kind of conservative in the grand scheme of things. I mean, we're in a cost of living crisis, but Bloodstock is in a parallel universe, it seems.
Well, it was great. It was like sort of transfer deadline day with the football, where all these stud fees were being announced. It was almost, we're live at Dalham Stud to get the latest stud fee here. The sales ring's always been slightly detached from the real world, quote unquote. There is a cost of living crisis going on. You wouldn't believe it, given Flightline 2.5% selling in the States and given £350,000 stud fee. I think it is a positive sign in the sense that there clearly is a demand for British and Irish bloodstock still. The proof will be in how many of those horses then are retained in Britain, continue to run in Britain and end their careers in Britain. But we still have the bloodstock, which is vitally important. You breed a few horses, don't you?
Only for fun. I think it's a very quick way at my level to lose money. But, I mean, the thing is, it's like markets. And I always believe that there's always going to be a flight to quality. And you'd rather invest a lot of money in a good sire than I think the middle market's gone. I think it's, as you say, cost of living crisis, that's what happens. You get, everyone wants to go for quality.
And would you train more flat horses if that came along?
Oh yeah, I mean, we've had a great season this year. The interest and the excitement, and it's funny, it's almost like going back to training again, to starting off again. Really enjoyed the flat season. yeah, we want to do. We've got a very nice 2-year-old that should come through as a 3-year-old.
So would you rather train like a little boutique selection of good flat horses than train a load of summer jumpers, for example?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and unfortunately that's the way it's going. I started off training summer jumpers, but I think now the flat's good fun.
Remind me of the name of the 2-year-old?
I can't tell you.
What?
I'd have to kill you. No, it's called Eastban.
Do you know, the weird thing is I actually believe you. Eastban.
East Van. Like East Vancouver. East Van.
Oh, East Van.
Yeah.
Okay. And she's just turning 3 now?
Yeah, just turning 3 now.
Okay. One to note for next year. I didn't expect a flat horse to follow. Allaho's out, Jonathan.
Yeah.
You can take 10 seconds on this if you like.
Bad news takes away from the King George, obviously, having a dual Ryanair winner come out. He was the favourite. That now means Brave Man's Game is favourite, and probably quite rightly.
Do you rate Envoy Allen a danger?
I do. He obviously took the step up in trip in his stride last time, and he's another one of, he's talking about Native Trail, one of those sort of horses who had such a huge reputation and sort of maybe didn't fully live up to it. Obviously didn't go right at the festival, but I think he is a serious danger. And we haven't even talked about some of the sort of previous winners that might be in there as well, with Tornado Flyer and the like. So
who?
The interesting.
Oh, he won the race last year, didn't he?
Yeah, that's the one.
Completely forgotten about him. Right, let's move on and talk about Omni Horse. You can tell me about Omni Horse.
I can certainly try. So my colleague Pete Scargill did a special report in the newspaper about this, and got really deep into what is a very complicated concept. So this is Kia Jorbachan of Ammo Racing.
Mm-hmm.
His sort of new project is the idea that he's encouraging people to buy into. It's a sort of a racing club. You're almost becoming part of a racing club by buying an NFT,
What's
a non-fungible token, or
non-fungible.
A non-fungible token. I'm not entirely sure.
What does the word fungible mean?
I'm still not entirely sure.
How do you spell that?
Fungible.
Have you ever heard of the word fungible?
No, it must be something to do with tangible, so it's
non-fungible.
I believe
token.
it's a digital asset that can't be recreated.
Obviously.
Essentially, therefore making it unique, therefore making it of a value, and the value of said NFTs is relative to the value of the horse that you're buying into. It also includes a subscription, so the details are a little bit vague and very complicated, but there is an aim in the future for Omni Horse to be sort of relevant and present in the metaverse, which is another great word that didn't exist a few years ago, and that will involve sort of a stable where you can kind of meet and talk to your fellow NFT owners and follow the horse. It's an attempt to get people interested in racing in a sense, in a financial sense, so they're investing, but it's not in the traditional sense of investing in flesh and blood.
Nope. Absolutely no idea.
It might be the future.
It could be.
Or it might not be. It's sort of, these NFTs are bought using cryptocurrency, which is in itself wonderfully volatile. So there's a few things that would need to be. I'm interested to see it in practice. Let's say that.
This is why I've not made any money. I've got absolutely no clue.
It goes so far away from the actual horse. How can you go into your stable and see your Omni Horse?
Well, we might find out on this programme in the not too distant future. Right, Alpinista's been retired, which is a great shame. She was going to go to the Japan Cup, and there was a huge, huge bonus for winning. But my oh my, shouldn't we just celebrate what she's done? Absolutely.
I think I've never, in recent memory, never seen an outpouring of sort of goodwill towards a trainer like Sir Mark Prescott when he won his first arc.
Not since Lucinda Russell won the Grand National.
Well, quite, yeah, not since then. Fantastic. She was so tough in the arc. She's been campaigned inventively, let's say, with going and winning in Germany, but then to come over and win on British soil was a really special day, and then she just went another level again to win the arc, and it's hugely disappointing she's not running in the Japan Cup, but as Sir Mark Prescott said, it would be nice for Kirsten Rousing to look out over her garden hedge and see a horse of that calibre in the field.
Yeah, it certainly will. Did you enjoy Alpinista?
Absolutely loved it, and I think this is, making the personalities out of the horse, and obviously the trainer as well. I mean, it was a great story. It's something that kept us going through the summer. It's fantastic.
Okay, those were this week's talking points.